Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. You're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of anywhere else? And that's because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They don't even read any of the comments. They talk down to us. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. So let's get right to it. We're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about Angel Reese. And, she gave a pretty emotional post-game interview, press conference, talking about how she's been through so much, that she hasn't been happy, that she's had, threats and all of these types of things, being sexualized and all of this. And I've been thinking about how I wanted to address this. I wasn't even sure I was going to, quite honestly, because I saw that last night that she made that comment, and then now I see that they're kind of talking about it on First Things First. And I have some mixed feelings with regards to this. I have some pretty strong feelings, honestly. And on one side, I always think it's a little bit of a cop-out to share those types of things after you lose, because it's almost kind of like an excuse. Not saying that it is, but it can be. As well as, on the other side, it's also just her being honest and speaking her truth. Like, right, once you lose, you're finally you're able to kind of just let go. I worked at a job that was incredibly intense, incredibly stressful, working at a men's and patient rehab facility. And it wasn't until I quit that my health just declined. And I talked to the doctors and I was like, why did this happen? I was working at this job and I was able to, I was the most stressed that I was. Why did it not all fail and come crashing down there? And they were like, because your body held it together. And then it wasn't until you quit that your body finally was just okay, thank God we can just let go. We were holding it together and now we just let go because, you don't need to hold it together anymore because since you're not working out, or since you're not working. And so to me, that could also be kind of what Angel Reese is going, is that she lost. It's over. And now it's just her body's just oh my God, she's only now finally decompressing from it all. And I think that's also a possibility. But I just always take issue when we start talking about being sexualized or, threats and things of that nature, because I think those are an issue and I wish we didn't live in that world. But the truth is that the vast majority of those things are just fake, or it's just weird people. It's just nonsense. Okay. I have had plenty of threats over the years and plenty of sexualization and people who, who have proposed to me. This is all online I'm talking about, who have proposed to me and this, that, then I ignore it. And then they're like, I want you to, never breathe again. Or, they say awful, scary things. And it's just so much of it is nonsense. I mean, it just really is. And so I hate when we make some of these statements and we act like they're so much bigger than they are. And we know they're not that big, because if they were, a lot of, first of all celebrities get them. And if they were, a lot of celebrities would be harmed. And they're not, right? It's never happens. It's the rarest occasion that we have a celebrity be any of these threats are actually acted upon. It's just toxic nonsense online behavior, which I don't think is good. And I wish it wasn't a thing, but let's also not act like it's a real thing. She walks down the street and people spit on her face or smack her butt or do, that's what we try to act like is happening. And it's not the reality. And it unfortunately is what comes with fortune and fame. And so I wish she never had to experience this at all. I want to be so clear. I wish she never had to experience any of this. Any of this. And on one side, I do feel genuine compassion for her. On the other side, I'm also you get to live a better life than 99.9% of the world. Yes, I know women's basketball and just women's athletes don't make as much money as the pros, But the truth is, they're still making way more money than 99% of the people out there. Not to mention, they get to play basketball for a living, okay? That's what they get to do. I would play basketball for a living if you paid me 80 grand a year. I would sign me up, okay? I don't care if I'm playing in front of an empty arena, whatever. Pay me 80 grand and I will play professional basketball. So, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would too. So this idea that someone like her needs sympathy, I just always push back a little bit. It's not to say that she doesn't deserve our sympathy. And again, let me say it one more time. I do have compassion for her, and I do wish she never had to experience any of these things. And I do feel for her. But at the same time, it's like you're crying to other people who objectively and subjectively live a considerably worse life than she does. And that I always take issue for. I don't feel bad for Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm not like, why can't Leo ever find love? If only he could find love. I don't feel bad that, what the heck's her name? I'm making up people here. Sofia Vergara got a divorce from whatever that guy's name. I'm not like, oh, I feel so bad. That must be so hard for her. Like, I just don't think about that. I just don't care. Because you know what? There's other people who are living so much worse lives than, say, an Angel Reese. And it's not even close. And yet we never hear about it. She's, that person's been, has just lived terrible lives. And you just never hear about it. So if I'm going to extend my compassion, I'd rather it be to those other people, to the people that aren't going to be making, legitimate money. I understand she's not going to have a $30 million contract, but she's still not going to be hurting for opportunity or money. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure she would have a one-way, ticket to being any commentator on ESPN, podcast, whatever it may be. So that's just a big, giant caveat. I don't want it to come off as insensitive. I tried to be very clear. So I just want to say that off at the top, and I want to hear what these guys have to say. But yeah.
Okay, talking about Angel Reese now, 17 points, 20 rebounds, and 4 blocks after the game. She opened up about the mental toll of criticism and scrutiny that she's faced. Take a listen.
I've been through so much. I've seen so much. I've been attacked so many times. Death threats. I've been sexualized. I've been threatened. I've been so many things, and I've stood strong every single time. And I just try to stand strong for my teammates because I don't want them to see me down and not be there for them. So I just want them to always just know I'm still a human. All this has happened since I won the national championship, and I said the other day I haven't had peace since then.
Brew, your reaction.
Well, it's just very sad that, winning the national championship should.
Sorry, I just also want to add, after seeing that clip right there, again, I feel for her emotion. I really, really do. And to me, this is more of a global conversation about success and happiness and scrutiny. But this is just not unique to her. And granted, she's really young, and that's why I feel bad for her more than anything. It's just because of how young she is, and having to go through this. But we've all worked jobs, careers, family situations that we are experiencing intense stress and scrutiny and issues, and that make us feel like we want to go crazy, or we're stuck in a job that we want to quit so badly, but we need the money and it's brutal and our boss is making us stay late and all these types of things. And, you got to, feed your kids, literally. And it just, and it's the weight of the world is crashing on you. And we all have to endure it. And I wish we could create a world where that doesn't exist. But again, we're talking about her, receiving scrutiny over basketball or whatever, and things of that nature. And it's just and I feel her emotions, and I feel it, and I feel bad, and it is very sad, and that is what we do, as a culture. We put up these people, whether they're pop stars, actors, actresses, athletes, and and South Park did a great job of highlighting that, where we just worship them. We drive them crazy. And then we go, oh my God, look at this person. They went crazy. What a weirdo. Then we toss them to the side and then we find a new one, right? That was the whole episode of South Park where they did the whole thing with Britney Spears and they got rid of Britney Spears and then went to Miley Cyrus afterwards. And, and it's true. It's very, very true. And so I am compassionate to that. But again, my argument is, and I'm always fighting more for the common everyday person, because I never want to overlook the suffering of an everyday person in place of the suffering of someone who gets to live such a more interesting, magical, privileged life. It's not to say that there's no drawbacks. It's not to say that they don't suffer as well. But, here's the reality. Help make the common people's, everyday life people's lives better, and those problems for the super famous, successful, high achiever people, their lives won't get that, because there will be less people who are now threatening online. There'll be less people who will sexualize online and all of those things. And also, that's social media. Just get off social media. She would not see any of this if she just didn't go on her Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever. If she just steps away, then she doesn't see any of this. And I experience this too, because I don't lie. I tell you guys, when I do my little, thing where I say, I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, whatever. And some of you all say some crazy stuff at me. And not to mention, YouTube automatically filters the really bad stuff. And occasionally, I'll click to it and say, okay, let me see what YouTube is automatically filtering. And I'm like, whoa, you guys are hardcore, man. All I did was say was, that LeBron James is not having a great season. And you guys go, you go for the jugular. And I accept it. And it can be hard at times, but that's just online behavior, where if you just stepped away from online, just is not going to happen as much.
Be one of the highlights of her life. And for her to say she hasn't had peace since then, it's just terrible. It's heart-wrenching, all right? And we know last year there was a controversy, and that's, to me, kind of when it began.
The start.
When there
her
was
doing this in front of Caitlyn,
and people jumping all over her and saying nothing about Caitlyn Clark doing it. That was racism, and I think it was classism too. Because if she was some suburban,
it wasn't. See, this is what really annoys me, because Caitlyn Clark wasn't. Caitlyn Clark just lost the title, and Angel Reese kept doing it in her face. That is excessive. I think Caitlyn Clark is awesome. If Caitlyn Clark did that to Angel Reese after Angel Reese just lost, I would also rip Caitlyn Clark apart as well. So this has nothing to do with race. Stop saying it was racism. It was a bad sport. It was when after you win the championship and you see the other person is now in the agony of defeat, to rub it in their face, and that is low class. It's Bush League. It just is, no matter what level. And you learn this whether you're 9 years old and playing sports or whether you're 40 years old and LeBron James. You just don't do it. In the middle of the game, there is a lot of trash talking, and that just is what it is. But after, that is when the respect is. That's why you always shake the hands, give the hugs, and do your thing. Whether it's LeBron James, Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, whatever it is, that is what you do. And we see this in boxing and UFC. These guys hate each other. They're talking so much trash, saying some of the most vicious things ever. They're literally drilling each other in the face, choking each other out. And then as soon as the fight is over, 9 out of 10 times, it's a hug. It's a you played, you did good. It's raising the hand. Like it's respect. It's respect. It's respect. It's respect. What Angel Reese did in that game last year, yeah, that made me not like her based off of limited information. And that is what sports is. You formulate opinions based off of very limited information. I have no idea who Angel Reese is. I've never hung out with her. I don't know. Me and her don't grab lunch together. We're not hanging out. We're not playing video games. We're not watching movies together. I haven't had some deep, conversations with her. We're not texting late night. So what do I have to judge her based on, right? It's her style, it's her attitude, it's how she plays, it's the things she says. Those are all the things. And so when you get a limited glimpse of someone and she's clearly and doing the ring thing and shoving it in Caitlin Clark's face after she's clearly lost, yeah, I don't like that. And like I just told you, and like I've made multiple videos now today and yesterday, how exciting Caitlin Clark is. And if she did that in Angel Reese's face, I would not appreciate that. Steph Curry, when Steph Curry did the ring thing or the night thing, he was doing it not in the face of anyone else. He wasn't doing it to Boston. He didn't walk up to Jason Tatum and be like, that's right, you suck, you will never win. He didn't do that. He did it to his fans. He did it to the bench. He did it to himself. He did it just to the TV in general. He did it differently. It wasn't in the face of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. You know, that's not what it is. Because if it was, I wouldn't like that either. So please don't bring racism into this. If someone is racist and they hate Angel Reese, they were going to hate her no matter what. But this idea that now any hate towards her or anytime you're calling her out is classism or racism, I reject that completely. It just doesn't make sense considering sports is so heavily dominated, especially basketball and football for that matter, is so heavily dominated by black athletes. And if that racism and that hatred was such a problem, sports would not be that popular. Nobody would have, there would not be enough people to root for. Everybody would just be rooting against Patrick Mahomes because he's black. And it's like, that doesn't happen. Everybody would be rooting against LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Steph Curry. I mean, it's just like everyone, at least one black person wins every single year in the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals. And yet, you know, you don't see it. So stop painting the picture like this is, you know, 100 years ago, because it's just not. And that is such a pet peeve of mine. We can criticize Angel Reese or say any of these negative things about any of these other players and not have it be about race.
Black girl who was, you know, acted differently, I don't know if it would be as people would be on her as much. So I think it's unfortunate she's going through that.
Sorry, I just need to add one point. You want to know how this is BS and not true? Grayson Allen. That dude is as white can be. And yet he got ripped apart by fans and the media, okay? Ripped apart for some of his dirty play, his attitude, his personality, the things he was saying. Baker Mayfield ripped apart publicly for his attitude and behavior and all of that. The problem is we're living in a world where if they were both black, people would say that hatred towards them is because of classism or racism. We have two perfect examples of just, you can't get any more white than Baker Mayfield and Grayson Allen, and yet they got plenty of hate and being ripped apart. Same thing with Johnny Manziel, okay? We're judging these people based off their personality. Does racism exist? Absolutely. Do some of these people hate these athletes because of race? Absolutely. But then on the flip side, I just did the video where Paul Pierce said, this was impressive of Caitlin Clark because she's white and beat up a bunch of black girls. That was Paul Pierce's whole argument. This is actually really more impressive to me because she's white and she beat, you know, a black team. Who's making it about race now? That was the most unnecessary comment ever.
There was the article in the LA Times that compared the LSU players, the dirty debutantes. And I don't think the author, the writer meant it in a pornographic way, but people said once you Googled it, and Kim Mulkey said it, you Google it, it turns to pornography. So I don't think he really meant it that way. I don't think he knew it, because that wasn't the thing that came to my mind. I just thought he's trying to turn a phrase. But that is, she's the reason, not that, you know, because she's kind of the face of that team, and he was looking negatively at that team because of what he thinks about her. And for her to have to go through that, like Kim Mulkey said, it is terrible that college kids have to go through this. Now, I will say this. As you become more popular, and as women's basketball is becoming more and more popular, they will also get some of the negatives that come with popularity in terms of, I mean, LeBron James is the greatest example. He is an awesome player, obviously, but with his stature has come a whole bunch of criticism and scrutiny that he has to have. It should be different with college kids, and a lot of times it is. Like, when I wrote, I would not criticize college kids or certainly high school. Yeah, the same way pro. They're not getting paid. I know they are now with NIL, but they're not professionals. And so it should be different in that regard. But it's just, you know, it's unfortunate. And a lot of what she's talking about also is social media. Not just traditional media.
So that's I think that's almost all of it. I think the LA Times article was, you know, maybe the straw that broke the camel's back publicly. So here is, I say this as, and I'm not trying to be preachy, and I empathize with Angel Reese, but my two older kids are sandwiched around her age. I have an 18-year-old and a 25-year-old. This is what I say to them. This is what I say to young people watching, adults watching.
He has an 18-year-old and a 25-year-old? Is that what he just said? I gotta listen to this one more time.
25-year-old. I have my two older kids are sandwiched around her age. I have an 18-year-old and a 25-year-old. This is what I say to them. This is what I say to young people watching.
How old
adults
is Nick
watching
Wright?
too, but particularly young people. You gotta log off. And I'm not blaming Angel Reese at all. But those death threats, the sexualization, I bet 98% of it, if not 100% of it, did not come from her walking down the street.
I told you. That's what I'm trying to say. This is going to be the most I agreed with Nick Wright ever. And a lot of you guys who've been watching this channel for a while now know that I disagree with Nick Wright plenty. That's what I'm trying to say. This is what social media does and all those threats. She's not getting it in person, all this. Social media in that regard is not real. Okay? YouTube is actually the realest, honestly, because like you're getting like actual real videos like this, but TikTok and Instagram and I don't know, I'm not even on Facebook, but I guess Facebook, like it's just a different energy in that regard, and people are willing to say anything.
It to her. It is people who live in your phone who are terrorizing you. Right. And I say this as someone who has been in some ways in the public eye for 20 years, okay? When I started, the social media did not really exist. It grew as during my time on the air. And about 6 years ago, I logged off. And by that I mean I didn't stop posting, but I stopped reading anything that is written about me because it was driving me crazy. It was negatively impacting my mental health, my interactions with other people, how I thought of myself as a grown man who opted into the spotlight. For young people who are kind of all of a sudden celebrities, nobody's prepared for it. Right. And anyone that's like, oh, ignore it, I'm here to tell you it's not ignorable if you read it. Human beings are not equipped to deal, for all of human civilization, you did not have to deal with strangers saying terrible things to you. We didn't evolve to know how to deal with it. All of a sudden, anyone in the public eye gets it. And I'm here to tell you it's awful for you. And that if you consume it, right, and if you consume it, it will negatively impact you. The problem is, Wilds, the flip side to it is the dopamine kick of the stranger saying good things to you. And in order to get that, you got to take the other, but it's killing kids.
It's true. And again, I really hope this video specifically, because you never know, but these videos, sometimes I get, you know, a few thousand views, sometimes you get like 100. I really hope this video, and I hope a lot of you guys have made it to the end of this, because this is what I experienced with this channel. I do. I really want to read all the comments. I really do. When I say that I want to build a community and do all these things, I truly mean it. And by me reading all the comments, I feel like you get a more authentic experience, right? Like when I make comments and say a lot of people are saying that, you know, Patrick Mahomes is not the best quarterback, like I'm basing that off of not only some of the more public general conversation, but then the comments on this channel, so that I'm actually talking to you guys, right? So it feels more relatable. But it's hard because, again, I read a lot of comments. Every time I say anything that's just not 100% positive about someone, I'm just a hater. I'm awful. I'm terrible. I know nothing. I mean, everyone just tells me, I should delete my channel, like all this type of stuff. Not everyone, but, but then on the other side, I get plenty of comments of people saying, this is amazing. This is so great. You're my favorite channel. I really hope you get really popular, like all this type of stuff. And it's really great. And I've had a habit where I started screenshotting some of the positives because it kind of helps keep me going. It's kind of motivation, honestly. But I'm also an athlete at heart, right? That is why I do this as well. This is why I'm comfortable sharing my opinions, because I played sports so competitively my whole life. Full disclosure, I did not play in the NFL. I'm sorry, nor did I play in the NBA. And so I also get energized when people say I'm terrible, I suck, or I'm not going to be able to do anything. Like when I first started on this channel, I only had a couple hundred subscribers. People were like, yeah, you're an idiot. No wonder why you have no views, this, that, and the third. And I was like, okay, just wait. It reminds me of, I'm not going to be able to think of his name fast enough, but it was the Celtics, the guy from the Celtics, going up against Giannis, and Giannis talked trash in his face, and he then came back and dunked on him. I think it was in the playoffs. I can't think of his name. The older guy, pretty old now, especially. And I just remember him going like this, okay, and he's like kind of like awkward, and so like it just like didn't look that cool, but like for whatever reason that always will kind of go in my mind, and I use that as motivation, right? Kind of like Jordan and stuff like that. But it does get to you, because sometimes you're really just like, what am I doing? Is this a waste of time? Am I dumb? Am I stupid? Am I this? Am I that? And then I tell myself, well, I say that I'm reading all these comments, and I just try, the mean ones, I try to just like skip over or whatever it is. And, I have my own approach to it now, because I really like to reply at least to one comment from every single person at the very first, at the very least, the very first comment that someone does in the thread. It's a lot harder to follow the replies based off of how YouTube works. It just is, it's not in order. So if someone does a new comment from a YouTube video a couple weeks ago, it's brutal for me to see. It's not always the easiest thing. So I always make the habit to reply to at least the first comment. And if someone's just right off the bat negative, and when I first did this, I used to defend myself. And now I don't. Now I just do a juggling emoji, or like a blowing the noisemaker emoji, or like a shrug. Like I don't engage, and I just get it out of the way. And even if the person is making good points, honestly, but if they just say like, you're the dumbest person ever, you're a hater, this, that, and the third, and then they go on a tirade, I just go, I'm just not going to engage in that, because that's not fun. Because what I say is, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Those are not the fun fights. Those are, you're just trying to be a jerk for the sake of being a jerk. We could disagree, and it can even get heated, which is totally fine. That's part of the fun with sports, but there is difference. And that's why also I make the habit, and I take pride in this, is that I do not come at people and say, you're so dumb, you have no idea what you're talking about, you're an idiot, this, that. I do not rely on those types of things, because also I have no idea who that person is on the other side. Not to mention, it may matter to them so much more than it matters to me. So I always try to, meet them, halfway, so to speak. So I totally really can appreciate where Nick is coming. And I think maybe if you don't have a platform, because I have another, an Instagram, a verified Instagram account before you could pay to get it verified, that has like, I don't know, 70,000 subscribers, 70,000 followers or whatever. And so, I've gotten a lot of love and hate, the DMs are blowing on there. And so, I can say from experience, and I'm not world famous, I'm not a big deal. So I know it's a million times worse for these guys, and I always find it funny. People rip apart Nick Wright, which I'm part of it, Nick Wright or Stephen A, or Colin Cowherd, or any of these guys. And they're like, they're so dumb, they don't know what they're talking about. And yet here they are. They're the ones that are making all the money. They're the ones that are on TV. There they are. So I find that always interesting. And believe me, I will say Nick Wright, what he's saying is absurd or dumb or this or that, or I'll call out Broussard or, whoever, Colin. So I'm not saying that that's, these guys are 100% accurate, or that you can't call them out, but it is just an interesting dynamic. And I do wish that these younger kids were more protected. I do, especially just being a college athlete, because it is different, right? I only have, when I said in the top of this, how I only have so much compassion for an Angel Reese, I have a lot more sympathy and compassion for Angel Reese than I do, say, like LeBron James or something, right? There's definitely levels to this. And I do appreciate that she is just a young girl. She's not a woman to me. She is a girl. You know, she's 22. What is she, like 22 years old? And and then I compare that to my little niece, you know, and I think, you know, I always feel bad. My little niece is starting to play sports very competitively now. At this point, she's takes after her uncle. And, you know, I can see the stress and anxiety that the pressure that she gets put on, not only from her father, who's one of the worst people you could ever imagine, not to mention the coaches and stuff and all of that. And I can see, I'm like, here is this beautiful, cute, innocent, you know, sweet little girl. And she's not 9 now, but I'm just, you know, when she was 9, and she's being just crushed by the stress of this soccer tournament or something, or softball or basketball, whatever it may be. And I'm just like, this kid should just be chilling right now. And it's not a matter of, you know, being a snowflake or being soft or any of this. Again, there's levels to this. There's a time and a place. And me, I played sports very competitively, as I said, and it was my life. It was my world, and I loved it. But my new feelings towards sports for kids is really, the less intense, the better. If you're going to truly be an elite athlete and you're going to play in the pros, college, varsity, whatever, sure. But if not, then it really should just be about fun. I know the whole idea of, you know, participation trophies gets a bad rep. I get it. I do. I understand it, you know. But at the same time, if you're not going to go pro, I don't know how much it benefits you. And so, you know, with Angel Reese jumping on social media, TikTok and all this, it's like, you're doing other things in your life. You have all this great things ahead of you. You are young. You know, you're a young, beautiful woman playing basketball. You're going to be in the pros. You're going to be in the WNBA. Like, you have such amazing opportunities and a chance to live such an amazing life. If you just go on TikTok and Instagram, because I'm pretty sure that's where all this is coming from. If you just disconnect from that, 99% of our problems is just going to vanish. I mean, it just is. So, you know, that's what I would say to Angel Reese. So this talk definitely took a turn. You know, this definitely took some different turns. So this is a long video, so I would really appreciate if you could comment and give a thumbs up, as it will help with the visibility and get more people to see it. I'm concerned a lot of people aren't going to see this video because it's so long, and, you know, it's women's basketball, and women's basketball is only so popular. So, but I think this conversation was really interesting and worth having. So definitely let me know your comments below. Anything that I was saying, whether about Angel Reese and the compassion, or what Nick Wright was saying, or Broussard was saying, or what I was also just saying about social media and all this type of stuff. Let me know what your thoughts. As I said, I do read every single comment. And please don't forget to subscribe. We really are building an amazing community here, and I truly would love to see you part of it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.